Driving home to the point. As much as we do not see law being understood, exercised, honored, God's true law, natural law, nature's law, natural law and order, supreme law, it's basically showing us the state of the world, the state of sin. You know, as the saying goes, we're born into sin. We're living in sin. This is a sinful world. And it's blatantly shown right now, right there up in the courts, in the judicial system, in this unprecedented situation we've all just gone through. And then people are suffering and run into court for justice and for remedy, and it's not happening. And that shows you right there in this case that's going to play after this note, that they don't even want to honor precautionary principle when it comes to our bodies, our health, our lives, putting products into our bodies, and they don't want to honor the precautionary principle. It's ridiculous. Yeah, we're needing to learn how to get this right, to have justice, and to stop harming people. God's law is the way forward, the law of equity, natural law and order. Okay.
Hi, I'm Dr. Joseph Sansone. I'm a psychotherapist opposed to psychopathic authoritarianism, which is just about everything nowadays. And this is Mind Matters and Everything Else. And I have two special people here with me tonight. I've got Dustin and Xylee from Interest of Justice. I guess it's like Batman and Catgirl we have here. And but they're doing some marvelous work in Costa Rica, and they had a hearing today, I guess in an effort to ban the jab. And so we're going to get right. I know we had some, you had some really great witnesses there. You had Dr. Michael Yeadon, my colleague, Dr. Anna Mahalcha, and others. I think Dr. Yancey Lindsay and others. And so I guess I'm going to throw it to you guys. What happened today? Tell us what this, I guess it was a hearing, and what do we need to know of what happened today and where it goes from here?
Yeah, definitely. So today was the hearing. We had filed a precautionary measure in the what you call the contentious administrative tribunal, which is a court for public officials and whatnot. And back in October of 2022, and there was all kinds of shenanigans that we had to get through, and hurdles to jump, and legal jargon and whatnot. And so eventually, we finally it got denied in the lower court, and we had to make it to appeal. And that's what this hearing was today, was an appeal on the precautionary measure, and it was to stop the COVID-19 injections. And in the appeal, when we wrote it, we ended up putting, at the time, the state was trying to give obligatory vaccinations to children as well as health workers and other groups. And so we had written that in there. It was very much of an urgency, to try to warn people about the safety and efficacy of these,
So was this almost like a temporary injunction you were trying to get? Would that be?
Yeah, it was a temporary injunction until we could resolve further matters, and until we can get the larger case in, which is what we're working on now.
Okay, and so what happened today?
Well, the judges went through everything, and they decided that they were not going to grant it. And it was interesting because when they were going through everything, they kept using the word experimental. And in this court, apparently, they weren't able to determine the experimental nature. It's too much for them. It's a temporary thing before the whole main case. So they basically said, why don't you go file your main case here? And there was also a couple other issues. Because we had mentioned and harped on the children at the beginning, the court here was unwilling to expand. We think that they could have expanded it, and we're bummed that we didn't actually drop the case and start over back then, because it ended up becoming most of what we were saying was moot today. So it's unfortunate because when we wrote in the paperwork, we said, and it should be given the safety profile, it should be for all humans.
Right.
But they didn't take that on that because it was inartfully put on our side. To be honest, we're not Costa Rican lawyers, and they have such persnickety stuff here in this particular court. We've won 4 times in the Supreme Court with things that you can do yourself. There's things called amparos, habeas corpus. We can win on those. We have no problem filing those and winning. We can not do this right. So apparently, it was partly our fault, to be honest with you, with the wording of the original document. We were very much pigeonholed and trapped. We thought that on the paperwork, we thought they were going to expand it. When we got up to the appeal, it said, listen, it was unartfully pled. I don't know why you guys didn't know this was for everybody. And then they accepted it. We thought it was going to be for everybody. They pretty much kept it to just children mandates, which was pretty much moot because they've already lifted the mandates. Right. So that was most problem. However, they had the slight ability to, consider this. And then once again, they were unwilling to expand it to everybody in this particular hearing. But they kept saying, wow, it's not a vaccine. You're telling me it's not a vaccine. And if it's not all the way to past 3rd phase to become a vaccine approved with all the markers of immunogenicity and everything it would take to become a vaccine, then it must be an experiment. The attorneys the judges kept repeating the word experiment. And then they looked very devastated, to be honest with you. And the attorney said, wow, they usually yell and have a big old hard time, but they looked very sympathetic and they were very nice. And they didn't yell once. They were so professional and I think they cared about the topic. I genuinely think they couldn't do it. But
when you say didn't yell, are you referring to the judge, like the
judges?
Judge?
They weren't like being mean like they are to a lot of people. You got a frivolous case. What are you wasting our time?
Right.
They all took it really seriously, including even the government side took it seriously. So our attorney in the end of this said that it was a wonderful thing that we went in there because we learned the other side's theory. So as we've done all this work to get prepared for this hearing, it's more than half of the way through to get the case ready for the main case, which once again, we weren't up to par. I'm just be honest, we weren't up to par to go into this particular court with these particular rules. Not being an attorney, normally I make fun of attorneys. I'm not going to do anything right, but in this, this is something that needs a attorney with this particular. It's a specialized law in this specialized court. So
okay. Now, well, one, I'm going to say, you know what, if you're going to have perfection, you're not going to get anything done. So you just got to do it. And the fact that you're doing it, this is like a very tangible effort you guys have going here. So do you have to file the full case within a certain amount of time? What's is it 15 days or something, or does that no longer apply?
No longer applying. That's if we won, actually. So apparently we have as long as we want to file it. Of course, us and the experts and the attorney had a meeting immediately afterwards, and we had a powwow. How are we going to do this? And we've decided that we will be working with the lawyer very closely, building the evidence packets. The case, once again, is mostly, or at least over halfway done by the work that went into the briefs. We put in beautiful briefs in the past few days, and all of that's going to get used now. So I think he said, what did he say, about a month and a half to no more than 3 months before we were back in front of the court. And he explained, to all the witnesses and everybody, we're not stuck with just this. This was one request for a precautionary measure up front. But when we go in again with the big main case, of course, we will ask again for a precautionary measure with more precision in our words, right. And that's right now our request is how precise can we get? And we think that obviously if we're going to go do this, we should go big or go home, take off all mRNA outside of clinical trial.
Right. Now, anybody watching this knows that it's a biological weapon. Are you guys using that angle, or are you using the fact that it's an experiment? Like, what is your approach? Can you share that? I mean, what is your approach?
When it goes in, it's going to go in as both. Dr. Yeadon and all of the experts are convinced it's intent to cause harm.
Right. I mean, I don't know if they saw Dr. Anna's videos, but if they did, their heads would probably spin, because she's got some pretty compelling evidence that she's showing under a microscope there too, and I'm sure everybody does in different ways. So you're hitting that angle too. That's great. What was like are you going to have the same judge, or will it be in a different court? Do you have any idea on that?
Yeah, it will. It'll most likely be a different judge. It's going to be filed in the same court we filed this precautionary measure in.
Okay.
just happened to be the appeals court of that
Okay.
court. So
I have another dummy question for you guys, since I'm not an attorney. Is this a criminal action or is it like a civil action?
okay, so this is not a criminal action, and it can turn into a criminal action once there's certain things proved.
Okay.
So
So this is like a, are you, so is the main case like trying to file another injunction? Basically.
The main case is administrative contentious. So there's a law here that's Article 49 of the Constitution, and it is that they made a court to go after all of the misuse of power and any illegal acts. So if you have an act that's outside the limit of the law and something with misuse of power, we're going to go into this court, which is why we got pigeonholed into this court. We've had Supreme Court tell us a few times, you got to go over there. And then, like I said, we tried to get into this court before. It's difficult. It's a
high bar.
It's a really high bar on how you precisionally do your paperwork, and it's not our style. So, yeah. So this is the administrative contentious court, and then what happens in this court? Once you determine that things are outside the limit of the law, what's going to happen? You're going to say, well, this was fraud of law. The Vaccination Commission, for instance, we're arguing they took a power that was not conferred by the legislator to authorize these vaccines. So, for instance, I say I'm the head of the CNV, which is the Vaccination Commission. I can only take law power over a vaccine. That's why the whole argument is it's not a vaccine, it's an experiment. So if we can prove, look, it was never a vaccine because it never got to third phase trial. Here he's putting an experiment into a childhood schedule, like as if it's a real vaccine and totally approved. You can't put an experiment into a childhood schedule. CDC did it too. They're all crazy. It's not okay.
No, it's not. These are clearly crimes against humanity. Now, is this unique? Like, is this unique to Costa Rican courts, this type of action you're doing, or can people do a similar action in other places?
I don't think most countries have the administrative contentious court. Some of them do. Right?
Yeah, some depends on the nation and how their legal system is set up and what they can.
Like, can this be done in the United States or no?
I mean, basically, I mean, all courts, if you think about it, have some way to hold the corrupt administration to account. So our job is to find what laws apply and apply it to these corrupt admins, you know. And then once again, once you get something outside the limit of the law, what happened? You proved a crime. So everybody's going in right now. Here's why everybody's losing and can't get anything done with the crimes. I'm the judge. Dude, I have everybody in the world telling me that this is a wonderful vaccine, and you're coming in here and telling me that it didn't save my grandma's life. That she just took the vaccine and she didn't get sick. Do you understand? You guys are all crazy because the whole world thinks that this is going on in a certain way. So until you get an admin or a civil judgment saying that there was something illegal, I don't think anyone's going to have a criminal case because there's no crime yet. Right now, it's perceived and treated it's as if it's not a crime.
Well, and I think part of what's happening too is even people that are aware of it, everybody, you know, because I know here what we've been doing is like we're giving these legal briefs to, you know, sheriffs, and you know, they'll say you got to give it to the prosecutor. You give it to the prosecutors, they'll tell you got to give it to law enforcement. Like everybody seems to be passing the buck anyway. Nobody wants to do their job because you're working harder than the people that should be doing their job right now. Basically,
right.
And so that I think is part of the problem too. I think there's a genuine fear because this is so big, but you know, somebody has to do it. And so, what would you do differently moving forward? Like, what do you think you're going to do differently?
Do the precision when we had the meeting with the attorneys, I mean, and the witnesses afterwards. The big thing was pick out exactly what you're asking for so that we can build the case about exactly what you're asking for. Obviously, a year ago, we were asking for something different than we would ask for today. And we shouldn't have got so excited and moved by the children's things. We should have stuck to the thing. Hey, this has to get off the market for everybody. And it should have been a case. Literally, no one does that. They just keep going after these mandates. And immediately afterwards, we were upset. Why is everybody going after the mandates? We thought we were going after more than just the mandates, but it was, if we could go back, I would do the precision with the wording so that we didn't get pigeonholed so much.
Right. But I mean, I don't blame you. You're trying, they're going after the kids, so that's a normal thing too.
We're too emotional about the kids, but it's for everyone. Yeah.
Right. No,
Yeah.
but I get it. I mean, they're going when I see that, because certain places, here in Florida, it's they're not mandating anything at this point. I mean, the Surgeon General is advising against getting them, but there's other states where they're putting it in the childhood schedule, so it's kind of crazy. And the reality is people are being gaslit, because a lot of people that are, I'm sure it's the same there. There's people that are sick and have serious illnesses because of these injections, and their doctors are just telling them like it's some pre-existing condition. It's like I have empathy for these people. You've just screwed somebody's health up, and then you're telling them it's in their head. That's just, and I'm sure that's happening there too, right? Or is it not?
Definitely a psychological thing like that. Definitely.
Yeah. Because I mean, I guess the doctors don't want to admit what they did.
Of course,
for the government.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're.
Yeah, true. Or they don't know what they're doing because they listen to the government.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the other problem.
Yeah, well, that's my theory. Like, the honor roll students aren't the ones that are going to save the world here. It's the reformed juvenile delinquents, because they don't need the approval as much, so they're going to question things a little bit more, well, I think you guys are doing fantastic work. I hope it inspires other people to follow suit, because like my view is the enemy will die by 10,000 cuts. They're hitting us 8 ways sideways. It's like we got to do the same thing to them. And it's like, if there's people are doing this all over the place, they can't stop us. That's
we say that's multi-pronged approach. It's not going to work without a multi-pronged approach, and it won't work without a series of attacks from every angle. So once again, we've got to prove that things were illegal, and we've got to go in from different angles. So there's 2 different problems too. There's issues of ethics. Things can be completely legal with all these crazy other transactional authorities from the DOD and a million loopholes that they write themselves in right before they leave office and go back and work for Pfizer. Because they work for all these things that they do, and so when they use those laws, I don't know. It's just you can clearly see that everybody's using all these laws, and that we need to box them back in, and we need to prove every single angle. So we've got ethics, we've got law, and they're saying it's completely legal, but under certain things, even under the World Health Organization, we're not fans. They even have a document, the MEURI ethical framework, and they say this applies to COVID vaccines and everything outside of a clinical trial. And they say in there that you have to have these 4 pillars. Well, this just came out in 2022 when they revised it. And in there it says that if you have, say, an unproven intervention outside a clinical trial, which is a COVID-19 vaccine, it's also hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. If you have a unproven intervention outside a clinical trial, then it has to go by the MEURI framework, which says that it would be unethical put it out if the fact sheet didn't reflect all of the concerns of the greater scientific community about the lack of safety or efficacy. Where's that in the fact sheet? No, you censor all of the greater scientific community rather than actually being ethical. So one of the things that we would like to go back to the other court for is go through a series of looking at what the WHO is doing and all of the regulatories, and does it abide by the WHO's MEURI framework? No. Does the WHO Director General abide by the MEURI framework? That's their duty to abide by? No. And then go get that proven unethical, which I think will be a huge benefit to mankind in the future. So I think our jobs when we all go take these court cases in is ask pertinent questions. Is it abiding by MEURI ethical framework? No. We get a judge, and so what we need is some judges to approve these and show that we're outside the limits of the law and outside the limits of ethics.
Right. Well, again, I don't think the reality is, and I think this is why you have to have a multi-pronged approach. You don't know what's going to work. And so you took an approach, and you might be saying, we shouldn't have done that, but that could have been the approach that worked, And so I think we're dealing with like a hydra, like an amorphous thing, and we have to be, I like to say asymmetrical warfare requires asymmetrical resistance, and we have to be as unorthodox in our thinking. And when I mean we, I don't mean me and you. I'm just everybody who's trying to save the human race right now. Basically, has to be able to think outside the box like they do, because they're so creative. And just like you're describing, they create this little myriad, this framework of legal loopholes which are totally illegal if somebody just looks at them, as a whole. But in order to beat that, you have to kind of, in a way, I guess, keep adapting and adjusting until you find that opening. I guess. What else can you do?
Yeah, and we feel like there was nothing bad that came out of this. This hearing was absolutely good in a bunch of different ways. We were able to see the stance on the state side on how they standed in their theories, and also we got to you know we got to take care of. We got a resolution. We've got some closure now. We put in the case so long ago for these children, and like we went through so many shenanigans to get to where we are now, from them losing the case and in the courts, and deleting all of our database, and like just all kinds of deleting emails and just weird things, delay tactics, whatever it is. And finally we had the put in the appeal and said, we've been to everybody under the sun, and here we are. We haven't been heard. It's been over a year. This here we are, out of all this stuff that happened, and finally it actually feels like we got some closure, and we got to get face to face with the judges, and and say, hey, we're being heard now, and it's not just us being heard. This is at the time it was a lot of energy of a lot of people, flowing through, all of the giving us their energy through our organization. We can't do this without them, without everybody else too. So all of that energy, collective energy, we finally got a resolution out of this, and we can move forward now. So it feels